breaking news from 7 Eyewitness News.
Good afternoon once again. We begin today with breaking news involving Western New York Congressman Chris Collins. The representative has been arrested today for insider trading. His son and another family member also facing charges here. 7 Eyewitness News reporter Ed Branch has been reading through the indictment that came down this morning. He is live in our newsroom right now. Ed.
And Keith, before we go any further, I need to let you know that in the next couple of moments, we are expecting to hear from the Southern District of New York, the U.S. Attorney down there in Manhattan, about the arrest of Congressman Chris Collins, his son Cameron, and his son's girlfriend's father, Stephen Zarsky, all on charges of insider trading, conspiracy, and wire fraud. Here's what we know so far this afternoon. Collins got information last year while he was attending an event at the White House that a drug therapy being tested for multiple sclerosis had failed. Collins sat on the board of directors of that company developing the drug. Prosecutors say Collins told his son about the drug's failure, which was not public information. According to the criminal complaint, his son sold off more than 1 million shares of the company's stock that he owned. It was his son, prosecutors say, who relayed that same information to 4 other people who also sold off enough stock that the share price plummeted 90%. In total, the group avoided a loss of roughly $770,000. The criminal complaint says Congressman Collins had a duty not to disclose material, non-public information, going on to say the company's policy prohibited a person from communicating that information to someone else if they know the other person would trade on it. It also goes on to say directors and other company insiders were prohibited from trading in the company's securities if the person had information that wasn't available to the public. That said, Collins' attorneys point out even the government does not allege that Congressman Collins traded a single share of that company's stock. His attorneys also believe that Congressman Collins will be exonerated, while the complaint says Collins, quote, knew or recklessly disregarded that he breached his duty by disclosing this information to his son. Collins, meantime, is expected to talk about the charges and his arrest later today. He surrendered to the FBI along with those 2 others. Now, more breaking information this afternoon from House Speaker Paul Ryan, who is demanding an investigation by the House Ethics Committee about Collins' arrest and these charges of insider trading. Let me read the statement that says, until the matter is settled, Representative Collins will no longer be serving on the House Energy and Commerce Committee. No word on when that investigation by the House Ethics Committee could possibly begin. Live in the newsroom this afternoon.
All right, Ed, thanks for the update on that, the latest from Washington. And also, we're waiting for this news conference to start today in New York City. We'll go live to that as soon as it begins. Now, we'd like to welcome once again former New York State Supreme Court Justice Penny Wolfgang. Justice, this is very similar to what happened to Martha Stewart some years ago, insider trading, convicted, and she went to jail for several years.
Yes, and the punishment that's available in federal court for these charges also involves a very long time, up to 20 years on each count. I mean, it could be cumulative, and also very serious, heavy fines.
Again, if you're convicted, again, Congressman Collins, this is all, he's been indicted. And I understand this whole process could really drag out and take a long time.
Yes, absolutely, because there are many, many counts in the indictment, and there are so many pretrial matters that have to be disposed of before this could even get to trial that you could be looking at, yes, a long period of time. I don't know if I would say dragging it out, but I would say because of the legal issues involved, it could be complicated, and it will be dragged out.
Does this happen very often? I mean, this is certainly a prominent individual who's involved in this particular case, but is insider trading something that a lot of people get nailed with?
Well, you already pointed to the one that everyone talks about, Martha Stewart. I don't think a lot of people do, because it's very that I know of, because at least not high-profile people, because it's very complicated and difficult to prove. There are a lot of elements involved, and legally speaking, it is not something that you can just charge without a lot of investigation, a lot of forensic proof, a lot of evidence, because the elements are difficult to prove.
Well, certainly there must have been a lot of investigation going on by the investigators to find out exactly, what their case is, and they stand by their case. They obviously think that they can go to court and win.
Well, haven't we been talking, we, the public, and everybody been talking about these matters for like months and months, maybe even a year, certainly a year, because so all of that time, while it was ethics investigations and whatever, we assumed that the U.S. government was looking into it and doing this investigation. And it's complicated. I keep saying it's complicated.
As I recall, Martha Stewart went, I don't know what the original sentence was, but I think she served about 24 months, probably less than what she was given.
You know, federal sentencing guidelines are very, very complicated. There are so many factors that they take into account. It's almost like a mathematical equation, and then there's some discretion. So there is no way of knowing at this point.
Now, many people certainly will be coming out today and saying that, you know what, this is a political hatchet job.
Yes, I think they will be, because as I said, this has been going on for a long time. It's right before the midterm elections that they're coming out with this. He was Collins, one of the original Trump supporters, so one of the outspoken ones. And yes, people will be saying it's political, but that doesn't mean it is. I mean,
now, the congressman, this is, by the way, we're looking at a live picture from New York City right now in Manhattan. This news conference is about to get underway regarding this indictment handed down today against Western New York Congressman Chris Collins. He's been charged with insider trading. This all has to do, again, with this pharmaceutical company that he heavily invested in Australia. And this all started when he was overheard telling another member of Congress or someone else in Washington that they should get in on this. It would be a very good deal, and then that got the ball rolling. So anyway, this news conference is just underway. Let's listen in right now from ABC.
Christopher Collins, a United States congressman. Congressman Collins is charged with insider trading and lying to the FBI. As alleged in the indictment, Congressman Collins cheated our markets and our justice system in two ways. First, he tipped his son to confidential corporate information at the expense of regular investors, and then he lied about it to law enforcement to cover it up. Also charged is his son, Cameron Collins, and Stephen Zarsky, the father of Cameron's fiancee. These charges are a reminder that this is a nation of laws and that everybody stands equal before the bar of justice. Now I'd like to go into the details of the allegations a little more. In addition to serving in the House of Representatives, Congressman Collins was also on the board of directors of Innate Immunotherapeutics, a publicly traded company that was developing a drug for multiple sclerosis. In June of 2017, Congressman Collins was told some confidential and highly sensitive information about Innate, information that was not yet made public, namely that Innate's main drug, the drug Innate was developing to be the backbone of its company, was a total failure. This was devastating information for the company. Congressman Collins had an obligation, a legal duty, to keep that information secret until that information was released by the company to the public. But he didn't keep it secret. Instead, as alleged, he decided to commit a crime. He placed his family and friends above the public good. Congressman Collins was a major investor in Innate, and so was his son Cameron. The congressman knew he couldn't sell his own shares for personal and technical reasons, including that he was already under an investigation regarding Innate by the Congressional Ethics Office. The crime that he committed was to tip his son Cameron so that Cameron and a few select others could trade on the news while the investing public remained in the dark. As the indictment alleges, that's exactly what they did. His son Cameron sold. Cameron's fiancee sold. The father of the fiancee, Zarsky, sold. Mr. Zarsky's wife sold. Other friends and relatives sold. And all because Congressman Collins violated his duty to keep Innate's information secret. And when the news of the drug's failure became public, the stock plummeted. In total, the conspirators used the inside information to avoid over $750,000 in losses. But Congressman Collins couldn't keep his crime a secret forever. The FBI asked to interview him, and instead of telling the truth, he lied. And so did Cameron Collins, and so did Stephen Zarsky. By lying to the FBI, they compounded their insider trading crime with the crime of criminal cover-up. Now I'd like to go over to these two charts which summarize some of the allegations in the indictment. This first chart is a tipping chain. It demonstrates the flow of the illegal insider information and the trading, the illegal trading on that information. At the top of the chain is Congressman Collins. He had an obligation as a Innate board member when he received confidential corporate information to keep that information secret until the company announced it to the public. In total disregard of that obligation, minutes after Congressman Collins received the devastating, highly confidential news that Innate's drug had failed its drug trial, Congressman Collins tipped that inside information to his son so that his son could trade. Cameron Collins, when he received that illegal inside information, he did two things, both of which are illegal. He sold stock based on that inside information and avoided $570,000 in losses. And he also took that illegal inside information and tipped others. He tipped his fiancee. He tipped his fiancee's wife. He tipped his fiancee's father, and he tipped a friend, all of whom traded on that illegal inside information. Stephen Zarsky, his fiancee's father, avoided $143,000 in losses by trading on that information, and he tipped others. He tipped his brother, he tipped his sister, and he tipped a friend, two of whom traded on the information. One attempted to trade on the information but was unable. In total, the conspirators avoided losses of over $768,000, all because of the initial illegal insider trading tip by Congressman Collins. In this chart, we set some of the key allegations in the indictment against a timeline, a backdrop of the Innate share price. On the evening of June 22nd, 2017, Congressman Collins was at a congressional picnic, and at 6:55 he received an email from the CEO of Innate informing him of the horrendous news that the drug had failed its trial. At 7:10 p.m., Congressman Collins responded to that email. So as the indictment alleges, at least at 7:10 p.m., Congressman Collins was aware of the inside information. A minute later, Congressman Collins attempts to call his son. In a period of 5 minutes, there are 6 unsuccessful calls. On the 7th call, at 7:16 p.m., as alleged in the indictment, Congressman Collins illegally tips his son Cameron about the drug trial results so that his son Cameron could trade on those results. Later that evening, on June 22nd, after Cameron Collins has the illegal insider trading information, Cameron Collins drives with his fiancee to his fiancee's parents' house. They arrive at the house at 9:17 p.m. Less than 20 minutes later, at 9:34 p.m., the fiance's mother is on the phone with her broker, beginning the process of selling her shares of Innate. The next morning, on June 23rd, at 7:42 a.m., Cameron Collins begins the process of selling his shares of Innate. During June 23rd and June 26th, Cameron Collins sells approximately 1.39 million shares of Innate prior to the market close of June 26. After the market closes, Innate announces to the public that its drug had failed the trial. And the next day, the drug price, the price of Innate, falls off a cliff. It drops 92% in value in a single day. This was the drop that was anticipated by the co-conspirators. This was the drop in value that the co-conspirators avoided by selling their shares before the public announcement. And they could only sell those shares by virtue of the initial tip of inside information by Congressman Collins. A case of this type and significance obviously involves the SEC and the FBI, and their representatives are standing up here with me today. To my left is my good friend Bill Sweeney, the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's New York field office, and to the far left is John Brosnan, the Special Agent in charge of the FBI New York office Criminal Division. The FBI's work on this case was spectacular, and I want to thank them for their professionalism and dedication. We work with the FBI on so many important cases, and it is always a privilege. To the left of Bill is Stephanie Avakian and Steve Pekin, who are co-directors of the SEC's Division of Enforcement. I want to thank them and the SEC for their hard work on this matter. Last, I want to acknowledge and thank the career prosecutors in my office handling the case. To my right is Max Nicholas, Damian Williams, Bob Allen, Scott Hartman, and the co-chiefs of our Securities and Commodities Fraud Task Force, Tim Kasoulas and Jason Cowley. Congressman Collins, who by virtue of his office helps to write the laws of our nation, acted as if the law didn't apply to him. The charges today demonstrate once again that no matter what the crime and no matter who committed it, we stand committed in the pursuit of justice without fear or favor. I would now like to invite to the podium Bill Sweeney.
All right, you're watching, once again, this is a live news conference in Manhattan. Federal prosecutors outlining their case today against Western New York Congressman Chris Collins. It is alleged he took part in insider trading. It is claimed that not only he, but his son's fiancee, her family, other family members and friends all benefited regarding this stock in a pharmaceutical company in Australia that went down the pipes after a big drug trial failed. This investigation has been going on for about a year now. We'll have much more on this coming up, but former New York State Supreme Court Justice Penny Wolfgang is with us. Just one thing before we go to commercial break. Are you surprised at the detail? I mean, they spelled out this case. They know to the minute what happened.
I don't think I'm surprised, but I think they're doing this, the prosecutors are doing this on purpose because they want to try, for example, to talk about pleas to intimidate, the defense into realizing that we have this. Ordinarily, they wouldn't be telling all of this if it wasn't a high-profile political matter like we talked about. So I think in their mind is, first of all, cooperation from a co-defendant, and second of all, maybe plea bargaining.
All right, Your Honor, thanks very much for coming in and talking with us today. Now, if you're interested, you can watch this news conference as it continues live from New York. We have it on our WKBW News app. Also, we'll have much more on this story on social media, our Facebook page, and our app throughout the afternoon, and full reports coming up on 7 Eyewitness News tonight, beginning at 5 o'clock. Don't go away. 7 Eyewitness News at noon continues in just a moment.